So now, finally, some real-world examples. So I'm going to show you some of the diminished movements in a song called A Rose for Emily, which is written by Rod Argent. It was recorded by his group The Zombies. So the first 4 bars or 8 bars, depending on if you're thinking of it in cut time or not cut time, would be this: G, D, F diminished 7th, A with E in the bass, D diminished 7th, A with C sharp in the bass, B minor 7, D over E, and then E. So that F diminished chord resolves to A over E. And F diminished 7th, remember, based on what I said about moving one note down, we can see that F diminished 7th is a lot like E7, and E7 shouldn't surprise us at all that wants to go to A. So that's right. So instead of going E7A, we're going F diminished 7th to A. You still get all the resolution the way you want, and it's just slightly tangier than E7 going to A. Doesn't have a ton of tension on it. The diminished chord has tension, but it resolves. So again, that little passage is. And then the next chord is D diminished 7th, which is in the same family as F diminished 7th. So same notes. F diminished 7th has F, A flat, B, D. D diminished 7th is D, F, A flat, B. Same notes, just different voicing. I was calling them out if you did them in kind of textbook order. In this voicing, you've got F, B, D, A flat. In this voicing, you've got D, B, F, A flat. And then that resolves to A. For the same reasons, really, D diminished 7th. If you flat that note, you can see this is an E triad with D underneath it, so that's E7. And things resolve kind of the way you would expect. Well, I guess that would be, let's see. That would be the best voice leading, would be like that. Or there it is. That's the better voice leading. But this is more like what the piano part is on the Zombies recording. So in both cases, F diminished 7th and D diminished 7th are functioning as sort of E7 chords with one extra tension note. That extra tension note would be F. The difference between E7 and F diminished 7th is just the one note. It's F. So thinking about E7, that F, you could call it the flat 9 of E7. But listen how different it sounds if instead of playing F diminished 7th or D diminished 7th, I played an E7 flat 9. So that would sound like this. I'll use that chord in both instances. That's kind of functionally what's happening. But it starts to sound a little bit jazzy. It loses the real flavor of whatever this is, which is not very jazzy. And you see we get this nice voice leading F, E, D, C sharp, B, and then this. Cool, someone's backing up. That's all right. Now in the next section, the B section of this tune, there's some more diminished chords that function in a similar way. So the bridge modulates. It goes B flat, F, C diminished seventh to D. So that C sharp diminished seventh is, well, what's it doing there? Well, what would you expect to go to a D chord? What chord would we expect rather than C sharp diminished seventh? Probably A7. That's A7 wants to go to D. And of course, C sharp diminished seventh is a very close relative of A7. So C sharp to D, and then G diminished seventh to D over F sharp. So again, this is kind of a substitute for A7. That would be A7 D. Here's A7 with G in the bass, D over F sharp. Here's G diminished seventh, D over F sharp. So now I'll play this whole first bit of A Rose for Emily. You can hear how these chords sound. So, as a general rule, very generally, diminished chords, if you look at the root of them, they tend to move either up by a half a step or down by a whole step. Now, in this song, that's not how they move, but I'll show you what I mean by moving up by half step or down by whole step, and then I'll come back to A Rose for Emily and show you how this is different. Let's say we're in the key of C, and I want to go C, F, G, back to C, C, F, G, C. If I want to spice that up with some diminished chords, I can approach each of those chords in that simple C, F, G, C progression with a diminished chord half step below. So B diminished, C, E diminished, F sharp diminished, G, B diminished, C. So I'll play it without talking. That's thinking going up a half step into each chord. Now I'm going to go down a whole step into each chord. So C, G diminished to F, A diminished approaches G, D diminished approaches C. Now I'm using a different voicing that I haven't used before here. So this would be D diminished seventh, D, B, F, A flat. I'm getting the B and the A flat here with a little mini bar. So D diminished goes to C, G diminished goes to F, A diminished goes to G. I'll do it without talking. Sorry, my intonation's not great here. Anyway, you get the idea. But that tends to make for kind of herky-jerky bass motion. You're going... It's not so bad, but it does move around a lot. It's easy to hear what it is, but a bass player probably wouldn't play that way. It's not the best voice leading. So, let's see. How are we going to get into the G? Oh, instead of going above it, we can go from below it. So I went a whole step above F, half step below G, whole step above C, and that gives us this bass melody. Also easy to hear and might be more smooth voice leading, might be more like what a bass player would play or what a singer would sing if they were on the bottom part of a 4-part chorale. So experiment with that on your own. Take a simple progression from one key and just use the basic chords, 1, 4, 5, even maybe the 6 minor, and then try to spice it up by approaching each of the chords with a diminished chord half step below or a diminished chord whole step above. And then once you get that in your ear, try to smooth it out by being a little more conscious of the bass motion so that you can get things like what we have here in the bridge. Up into D, down into D over F sharp, which gives us, so I'm in the B section and we've got G diminished, D over F sharp, A7 over E, D over C. So a lot of stepwise bass note motion. Not root motion, it's different. We're not going a G type of, like a G diminished to an F sharp minor to E minor to D. That would be stepwise root motion, where the actual functional root of the chord is moving by step. This is the bass motion, and in this case some of the bass notes are not the root of the chord. Do you know what I mean? So G diminished goes to a D over F sharp, but that F sharp is not the root of a D chord, it's the third, it's an inversion. And then A7 with E, that's the fifth in the bass, so you can say that second inversion, and then to D, which is the root of D, and then D over C. C is not the root of D. So there's a difference between stepwise bass motion and stepwise root motion. If you have Ted Green's book, Modern Chord Progressions, there's a chapter where he talks about that, talks about the difference between stepwise root motion and stepwise bass motion. So check that out if you have that book. So this is a long lesson. There's a lot here. I hope that more of it made sense than didn't make sense. And take the stuff that does make sense and then see if you can fill in the blanks and rewatch the stuff that didn't make sense or didn't make as much sense, and see if you can build the stuff you know, and then try to pile on the stuff that it might take a couple days or weeks even to think about it, and attach that and build that onto the stuff that's already making sense. The more that your musical knowledge has a through line, the better, rather than just having little isolated things. I understand this, but I don't really know how it's all connected. The more you can connect stuff, I think the more you can move forward in your understanding and in what you can create as a musician. All right, hope you'll make some music with all of that.